Well, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about searching for records at FamilySearch with success and try to show you the various places that you need to go to search for records and the various ways to do your searches so that you'll have success and find those records that you're looking for to help you identify your ancestors. So today, as we go through FamilySearch, we're going to be looking at 6 different places to do our searching. We won't spend a lot of time on most of them. We'll just be talking just briefly about how to use them, why we use them, what's found there. But to understand what we're doing, we need to understand that there are 3 main places that we're going to find records at FamilySearch. They're labeled records, full text, and images. We need to talk a little bit about each one of those groups to make sure we're aware of exactly what is found in each of those collections. Records are those things that we've seen that were indexed. Those essentially are the indexed records. And because they were indexed, we can find things by name, but because of them being indexed, there's only certain terms and phrases and things found on the records that were actually recorded in the indexing process. So we can't do a full text study of these. We can just basically find certain things in each collection. Full text was an improvement on the indexing system in that it is a much, much faster process. It's going to help us get caught up with the records that we have at FamilySearch instead of falling farther and farther behind every year because indexing was so slow. And because we're doing full text, you're going to be able to search every single word in the record. But the way you find these are a different process than the record collection process. So we'll have to talk about that. The third major collection are called the images. And those are the records that you can't search yet by the full name. Hopefully, soon there won't be any images left to search through because they'll all be full text. But until that time comes, we still have to know how to do a browse through images. And so we'll take you through that today. Okay, some general searching tips when you're looking for records where there are names. You're going to always want to search by name first. You're going to want to remember the motto or the mantra, less is more when entering information. Usually, the less you put in, the better opportunity you have of getting what you're looking for. When you put in too much, it just garbles things and moves your good answers that you want, the good responses you want, way down the list often. And searching using a variety of methods is also recommended. In other words, you might try also looking for the record not just by the person's name, but by their parents or spouse, depending on what type of a record you're looking for. Some of these options might be appropriate to help you. Also, try to view the image of the original record when available, and it is interesting how often we have records in FamilySearch's collection that we cannot see the originals, we only have the indexes. And then remember to attach your results as a source to the person in FamilySearch in the tree that you were working on. Okay, the first one we're going to talk about is what's called the global search. You may not be aware of this one. This is that search that's found on the home page, the landing page, the page you go to when you first sign in. And it doesn't look real spectacular, but really, there is a lot buried inside this search engine that makes it the most comprehensive search that you can do at FamilySearch. This is something you really ought to use. I've learned over time, this is where I prefer to go to find those indexed records because for some reason I get better results going to here than anywhere else. Okay, you can only search on basic data here. They don't have an expanded search. But once you've done your search and you're on the results page, there is a way to alter the search or even make a brand new search. So in this case, we're going to look for somebody called Dallas Maple, and he was born in Texas in 1882. And so that's what we'll put in. And when we do our search, this is the result page that comes up. So we want to look at it and make sure we're aware of all the different things that are found here. Right away, the thing to remember is where the pencil is your place to go when you want to edit the search or just start over with a whole brand new search. Up in the upper right corner, you're going to see the total results. So you'll see how many records you're working with. In this case, 511 records were returned. When you see under an individual result, like this first result, a little tree symbol, that means it's been attached to somebody in tree. This could be the person you're looking for, your Dallas Maple, or it could be some other record over in tree, but it's been attached to somebody. If you don't see it, you just won't see the pedigree symbol. You'll usually see some other kind of a symbol. In this case, it's a record symbol, and you can click on that to see the record. Now, along that right-hand side, if you take you back here talking about this, left-hand column, there's some interesting things here. This is where it becomes such a valuable search. First, there are the traditional filters. If you don't like all 511 results, we can break it down by different categories and just view those. If we want just census records, there'll be approximately 20 we could look at and filter out the others. And there's other options there besides that. We could also, this will also bring us back results from the genealogies collection at FamilySearch, the catalog at FamilySearch, the books, the digital book collection at FamilySearch, the image-only records at FamilySearch, and even full text search. You can go to full text search from this global search, and you will have already started searching for the records that you want because you've done a search. And it will use that search to look in full text. In addition, based on what you filled in, you can go over to Ancestry and it will search Ancestry for these same terms, or MyHeritage, Find My Past, Filet, Storied, or Google. So there's a lot of things that you can do off of this global search. This is why it's such a valuable search. And so this is something that's new. You need to kind of look at it, think about it, and try it out and see how it works for you. Okay, let's talk about the historical records. And of course, they've always been found by going to search on the ribbon at the top of FamilySearch to records. And this is one of two places where they are found. Again, these are the records that have been indexed, transcribed through indexing. And so here's our search engine. They give you some tips. Have a goal, know what it is you want to find. Try variations of spellings and dates and geographic locations. Search for members of the same family. Sometimes you can find your person by looking for their father or their spouse. If it's available, look at the image. And it's okay to leave some search fields blank, but be sure to include at least a surname. so the search has an idea of where you're headed. There are more options here. If you click on that, we can do a much broader search or a much more in-depth search, depending on what we pick from these options. And we'll be talking about them in this presentation. So here's the advanced search. Right at the top is something that's fairly new. It's been in here for a while, but they're trying to help us with the locations. Based once you have filled in like a date and a place, then if you're not sure if that's really an accurate place to go looking, you can use the historical counties auto checker to help you zero in on what would be the appropriate place for that time period. So they're trying to give you some help there so you're not searching for something in an inappropriate location. They offer the alternate name. My own experience with this is that it doesn't work like it's intended very well. If you have the alternate name for somebody, let's say you have a woman, you have her birth name, and then you have her married name. If you put those both in, it tends to take the one that you put in the boxes that says first name, last name over the alternate name field. I think sometimes you're going to have to just do separate searches, one with the birth name, one with, say, the married name for a woman, if you want to see every record that would have one or the other. It works better that way for me, at least. You can add birth event or life events. Right now it's set for any, that's the default, but you can change it to birth record, a birth date, a marriage date, a residence, place and date, and a death date, place. So you can be more specific in your search. The default, if you have any, is just a generic place search where you put city, county, state, country, or province, and a range of dates. And always give those date ranges a little leeway, a little wiggle room above and below, because FamilySearch tends to stay pretty much with what you enter. And so if you put in 1849, but the person on the record shows 1847 for a birth, it's not going to match. So you want to make a little wiggle room, say 1845 to 1850. And then you have a better chance of getting it. Okay, you can add family members into the search, and then it becomes like a couple search, or it becomes a parent search with your mother or father or both. And so you have various other things you can add in the way of people. And I mean, when you're using those, be sure you're using variations. It may have, the record might have just the father's first name. Occasionally I've seen that, or just his last name. It may not show the father at all, but it might give you the mother's maiden name, like on a birth record. Oftentimes on a birth certificate, or not a birth certificate, but a birth register, it'll have the mother's maiden name. And you can also do a filter, which is interesting. I've tried this a couple of times, and it really is good. To block out other locations, you can say, okay, I only want records found in this country or this state or county and nowhere else. And it really does filter it down to those and kind of helps narrow the search for you. You would think you could use the other locations up above and hit the little boxes which indicate you want it to be exact in whatever you entered there, but it doesn't always give you exact, or this will for the location. Okay, remember, less is often best when searching. Start with less, add things if you need to. That's the way I would approach it. Okay, the search results page looks like this. You have on there some specific filters. And in this case, there were 694 different returns. I may want to filter it. And so I can either filter it by a collection type. I can go down and start looking for a certain collection that has a return attached to it, or I can do it by gender, race, or a birth record, a marriage record, a death record, or other records, or residence. And when it says birth here, understand it's not saying really, oh, I said birth record. It just means a record that would have the person's birth. The census record has the birth, whereas a marriage record might not. It may or may not. So you got to be a little careful what you're looking for and where that piece of information you're looking for might be found. It isn't always real clear. But those are ways you can filter it down. So when you say birth, don't think you're only looking for birth records. You're looking for any record that would include the birth information. Okay. Again, this is a return that has no little tree there, so the source is not attached to anybody. And then the one with the little tree means that that source has been attached to somebody. The question is it your Dallas Maples or is it somebody else? And then again, here's your search engine. And you can now add things to it over what you could initially. Or you can throw the whole thing out and just say, I want to start over. Okay, when you're searching by relationships, do remember you need to be creative. If you're doing a spouse search, like say you're looking for a marriage and you want to include the spouse, you need to know if it's a woman, it's the spouse, whether she was married before or not, because the first time she marries, you usually will find her listed under her maiden name. On marriage 2, you're going to find her most of the time listed under the marriage 1 surname. She doesn't go back to her maiden name. Then it really gets confusing if, say, this is her third marriage, because now the most likely the name she was married under was her marriage 2 surname. You may not know all these marriages, so sometimes it might be better just to use her first name or a nickname and try to find her that way. And on the husband, again, of course, nicknames are important too. For parents, remember the kind of record you're looking for and whether it'll even include parents or not. And will it show both parents? Some places, like if you're doing Scotland birth records, it's only going to have the father's name and often the mother's first name, if at all. So you may want to vary these around, trying nicknames and different partial things. I know if you're doing a California birth index, it'll have your ancestor and it'll give you the mother's maiden name. That's all. It does not even mention the father. The father's surname is assumed by the child's surname, but the father's first name is never recorded on the index. And the mother's maiden name is the only part of her name that is recorded there. So you have to vary things. You just can't always just say, I want to put full names in there because that's usually not going to work very well. Okay, on the sibling search, this means a document where the primary person may be named with their sibling. You'd be surprised how many of these you might find, especially when you're doing full text search. And so you may find them as in deeds, or wills, census records, newspaper articles, especially obituaries. There's quite a few records where you might find the siblings listed, at least some of the siblings listed together. And you may have to use different variations for their names. Okay, a second way to get the historical records, besides doing the search and then record system, is to go to the home page of a person and click where it says Family Search. And this will take you to the same location, to historical records. Now, the results are going to look and feel the same. The big difference is in that the search was created by taking the information off of the person page that you were on and filling in all the boxes. So you've got a quite extensive list of terms. You may not want all those terms being used in the search, because if you use them all and they don't show up as matches, they drive down the answer that you're looking for, the result you want, down the list. So beware. This is one you might need to alter some of the terms there. Since you're on this page, why go out and go find the record search engine when you can just go through here and delete some of the extra stuff? Okay, now beyond the transcribed records, we come to images. And so this is what the image homepage looks like. Our search here is going to be different. You're not going to be looking for people because they're not indexed. So you're going to want to start with a place. Where is the record I'm looking for? And then narrow that down with a date. Focus in on a life event if needed, and even go so far as to set a specific collection to look at. Okay, getting there. On the top of the page where you have the ribbon, we're going to go to search just like we did for records. But this time we're going to go down to images, and there's where we come to our image search engine, which is a very simple search engine to start with, where it has just the location. Now, there are more options there, but we're going to just start with a location. We're going to look for my second great-grandfather, Joseph E. Sands, who died in Columbia County, Pennsylvania in 1913, and see if we can find anything related to that death. So we're just going to fill in Columbia, Pennsylvania, and then click the search. Now, I know we could do more options, but for right now, we'll just do it with the very simplest to show you what happens if you go this route. Okay, so here comes up the results. I was dumbfounded because Columbia County, Pennsylvania is just a little sparsely settled county in central Pennsylvania. It has 304 collections that are not indexed. This opens up a whole window of things that I would have never seen if I didn't go to the unindexed records, to these images. But that causes a problem. Now I have 304 collections. That's a problem. Okay, so the first thing I could do is I can come over here where they have the little date box, and I can put the date of, well, generally the date that I'm looking for, in this case, 1913. And it's not going to return only things that show 1913 as part of the date, but it'll look at ranges and give me any documents that have 1913 in the range of years covered by that record set. So I set it for 1913. Remember, we had 304 responses. And when I get the results back, I'm down to 70. And I'm on the all collection. So all together, there were 70. You can see like this first one is 1906 to 1943, so 1913's there. The second one's 1870 to 1930, 1913's inside there. Now, I can reduce that number now by filtering down to a life event that will shrink the number of results. If I do property, it'll shrink it to 51, religious records 12, marriage records 7, legal records 7, death records 5, birth records 2. So I I thought, well, let's try legal records because that'll include like wills and probates and things like that. And so that'll be my first attempt at filtering. This will get me down to 7 records. If I don't like it, I can always go back and try a different filter. So when I filtered by life event, and in this case, legal, it includes index to wills and administrations. And one of those sets is for the letters S through Z from 1813 to 1974, which includes the time frame that I want. And the last name is Sands, and so that falls under S. This appears to be a real good collection, so I'll go to that link. And this is, of course, what I come up with. I don't get to look for the names by searching. I'm going to have to go find a page with the name. So I have all of these images started. The first thing I note is there's 475 images. That doesn't mean 475 pages necessarily, but it means there are 475 images in this collection. The image I'm on at the time is the one that's got the blue box around it, and it'll always be on the screen for me unless I scrolled off of that screen. And so what I want to do is pass up those first 3, 4, 5 records that are just kind of the introductory pages and find something that'll help me understand how it's organized. All records are organized. They're organized in different ways, maybe by date, maybe by name. You have to figure that out. If there's an index, it's almost always pushed to the front of the image collection so that you can look at the index first and then go to what you're looking for. What that does, though, is that makes it so that almost never will the page number and the image number be the same. You're going to have totally different image numbers for pages. So let's see how this is organized, because this appears to be the cover of the book. And this is something inside the book. So this is the first thing inside the book. And it might have something to help me know what's going on. So we'll look there. And sure enough, this explains how this book is organized. Wills, administration indexes, deed indexes, a lot of court records in the late 1800s, early 1900s were put together with what's called a sub-index system from the Cott Company, Cott indexes. And they're very strange at first when you first see them. You have to get used to how it works. The whole point in them is to help you overcome the problem or the quandary if you had, say, a collection that where you had a page, say the letter S, for every record in there that had a surname that started with an S. And that could be a massive mess to have to weed through as they're entered in chronologically, most likely. And you need it alphabetical. And so what they've done is help make it simpler once you learn the system. So let's look at a page. Now, this happens to be the book for S through, I can't remember, V or something. But anyway, what they've done is they've taken surnames and they're looking at the first 2 letters of the surname, and they group them into different groups, and then you will find all the records for a certain surname in this particular group starting on a certain page. And so the letters, starting letters of the last name that are SA or SB are found in this column. If the surname starts with SC, it'll be in this column, and because there are so many, they'll allot 2 columns for the different surnames there. Then you have SE or SI in this column, and then it goes on with the rest of the S's till they've covered all the possible start letters for surnames. Now, what this means is that like Savage, spelled either one of these two ways, they created a page for the Savages, and it happens to be page 63. The Sands, which is what I was looking for, and that worked out real nice because here it is right away, is over on page 95. And so I know right away I want to go look and find page 95 in this book. Not image 95, but page 95. Now, there are 11 pages of indexing, so I figured let's go and find where the first actual page is. And that would be image, actually, it's image number 11. And so we're going to look for this page 95. So I went and just to find 95, I went to image 12, which is the first one beyond those indexes. And it appears to be page 1 in these indexes of wills and administrations. So based on my normal thought of thinking, okay, if this is page 1 and it's image 12, if I add 12 to 95, I should go to 107, and that should be page 95, because it'll actually be 12 pages higher than what you would expect. Well, I tried that. 107 turned out to not be page 95. In fact, it was a non-numbered page. This is what it looked like. It didn't even have a number. So what I found was that each of those little collections of records, only the first image will have a page number in any collection. The rest of those pages are on unnumbered pages. And so image 107 is this one. The first page of a selection actually gets the page number, and image 106 was page 58. Now, I scrolled through a few and I got to image 111, 4 pages later. That was page 59. So I'm not going to have any way of knowing for sure where it's at. So we're going to do the hunt and peck method. Generally, you find a number, you go to it. If that isn't the correct page you need, you either go to a lower number or a higher number. And then whatever one you picked, you go to a lower or a higher until you find what you want. Usually doesn't take too many tries. So this is what I did. Since page 107 was way off from what I needed, I said, okay, let's try page 200. Well, that took me, or image 200, that took me to page 129. So then I went to image 150. That took me to page 86. I'm getting closer. So I went up a little bit to 175. That gave me page 110. So I came down to 160. And lo and behold, there was my page 95. And that's exactly the page I wanted. Okay, well, this was interesting because I realized after all of this that I had made a mess up, because my Joseph E. Sands didn't die in 1913. It was his son, Henry Harrison, who died in 1913. Fortunately, I end up with what I'm looking for anyway by dumb luck, because the very first thing on the page is my Joseph E. Sands that I was looking for. When he actually died in 1881, his letters of administration were entered. He did not have a will. There's nothing under the will. So all I'm going to get is the administration, which usually isn't that helpful, but at least I'll have something. And this gives me the information I need, which is the actual book to go looking at. I need to go to volume 7, page 21 of the Wills and Administrations. to find Joseph's administration. So that means I go now to the catalog, the FamilySearch catalog, and I'll look up Columbia County, Pennsylvania, and then I'll look under courts, and I will then look for wills and administrations. And under wills and administrations, I found one of the films was volume 5, which is the volume they said I needed, and it covers the right time period. And I looked over at the right, and lo and behold, I see the full text search category, which means it's in full text search. I could have avoided all this by going there first, but I had no idea it was there. So I'll click on that link, and it will help me in that it's already telling full text search, go look at this image collection. And so I don't have to look through the whole thing. I just need to put his name in and the year 1881 and do my search. And there's his administration with the transcription off to the side. If I want to, and I should, I'll be able to click Save Record, which will lead me to sourcing this particular record to his record. So it'll become one of his sources. Love that we can take these documents now and source them very simply and not have to do everything by hand and original. Okay, so now let's look over at that full text search, because that's the other major search location that we need to learn about. Why is full text so valuable to us? Well, these are often the newest records brought into FamilySearch, or things nobody's seen before. You're going to get a chance to browse through them, find them, not browse, but search through them and find your people in them. This collection is growing by leaps and bounds. Just a year ago, it was 3 or 4 collections. Now, last time I looked the other day, there were almost 7,300 record collections in this full text search that it can be searched. And some collections are so new to the system, they aren't even located in the card catalog. You can't find them in the card catalog. The only place you're going to find them is here. And these are the only collections you can search every word in the collection. You're not tied to just those things that got indexed. And I think, this is Bob speaking, eventually I think most all collections will be run through full text search. And this will become the main place you'll go to search for most records. They'll all be over here, or most all of them. Okay, so this is the new kid on the block. It uses artificial intelligence to transcribe every word. It used to be in research labs, but it's just graduated, now has its own standard location in FamilySearch. And it offers a third unique collection of searchable records, in addition to the images and to the records collections. This is now the third main one. When you go to the search bar, you go to the search on the ribbon across the top of the page at FamilySearch, it's now the second item there, full text. And when you go to it, you go to the search engine for full text. And this is going to be a little different. Here, you're going to be able to put in the name, a date, and a place. You can add keywords too. I'd be careful about that. That can muddy the waters, bring in a lot of extra results that you may not want. Essentially, you're looking for a name and a certain date and a certain place. And so that's what you're going to be mainly focusing on. Okay, start your search. I was taught to put the name in the keyword box. Now, I don't know if that works better or not. I was told it was. I don't know why they would have a name box if they say put the name in the keyword one, but wherever you put it, whether you use it in keywords or name, if it's a 2 or 3 part name, put quotes around it so they keep the terms together. If you don't put quotes around it, you're doing Catherine Eck, you're going to find every page that has Catherine maybe way up here and Eck way down here unconnected. If you put the quotes around it, it's every page that has Catherine and Eck together here or over here, but the words will always be in proximity. Put the place in, be careful there. You might think that the record's going to be found in a town record, where it might actually be found under the county, or you might think it's in the county, but it's really found in the state. I tend to start with the state and work my way back if needed. And then the year, again, do ranges. I don't know when Catherine died. I could probably do 1776 as the earliest date. I'll find a record for her based on kids in the family, and then maybe 1820 as a death time. Or in this case, I'm looking at a specific period of time because I know there's some records I want to learn more about that fall in that time frame generally. Leave yourself leeway. Okay, here's my results page. 53 results. That's not too bad. I could go through everything. This very first one was kind of what I'm after. I was hoping to find something to do with warrants for land in Pennsylvania for this lady. Pennsylvania was a land grant state. William Penn was given this land by the king. He gave the land out, and the warrant process was part of this. And this is what I was after because I know she got some land grants. And so this is the applications for warrants, which is interesting because I've never seen this document before. I've seen the warrant document. I've never seen the application one. So I click on that to see what I come up with. Notice that I could do filtering if I needed to. If there were too many results, I could have gone back. I could have filtered by the collections that came up, or the year, or the place, or the record type. This has got everything I want, I think. This is 1790. It's got my Catherine Eck. It even says Northumberland County, which is the county that I would have expected to see. So this is the document that I got. I know it's a messy thing, but Catherine's mentioned in here twice. She got 2 warrants for land, one of them up here and another one down here, and that matches everything that I know about the situation. Her children are listed in between here with other grants that they got. And it even mentions like Jacobs was adjoining Catherine's. And this has the transcription so I can actually read what's over there. What's nice, and I did not mark it, but see the little pencil there. I can go back and edit this if I want to make changes. That's what's nice. Okay, so this is how full text search works. If I didn't like this one, I could go back and go browse through the rest of those results. And again, when I'm done, I'm going to want to save the record, meaning make it a source for the people on this document. Okay, and one other place to search, we've mentioned it already, is the card catalog. We won't take time to go back into there, but don't forget, if you've been doing all these other searches and you still haven't found what you're looking for, you might need to go back to the card catalog and do a search there. Now, I know when they revised the catalogs, they made some changes, especially in Europe, to the locations. And so if you're not finding the record that you know FamilySearch has got, at least they used to have it, because it's not coming up under the way the location used to be called, you may need to use the catalog and find what it's now listed as. So this is like your fail-safe, fall back on this. We won't actually go into it. I think most of us have used the catalog over the years. Okay, there is one more now. This just popped up after I wrote this presentation. Just a little over a month ago. In labs came a new kid on the block. Simple search. I love that name. That's catchy. If it lives up to its billing, this can be really interesting. So when you click on go to experiment, this is what it is. It tells us essentially this is an extension of full text search. This is a new way to search in full text. Because you're working with AI, you don't need to fill in boxes. You can just make a statement and put in there like search for John Smith, born in 1867 in Berlin, Germany. And that's all you have to put in. You don't have to fill in boxes and all that kind of thing. So let's give it a shot. So I put in just my grandfather's basic information. Claude I. Hale, born 1885, Pennsylvania, died in 1925 in New Jersey, just to see what would come up. I should have been more specific, but that was okay. I thought we'd give it a try and see how it'll work. I expect this may become, if it works out, it'll get moved over and become the full text search engine for full text search. Well, we'll find out with time. So I use that, and here comes up my results, and it's a full text search result page. Notice it had 64 results. There's my filters where I can either go to collection, year, place, or record type. And as I look down through these, I notice something right away. Oftentimes, where the name is, they drop out the initial. These first two only are plain old Claude Hale. Could be my guy, but it may not be. The third one down here is Claude Irvin Hale. My grandfather's middle name was Irvin. And it's a marriage to Carrie Lutz Lieberman, who was my grandfather's second wife. And so that is a great result. This turns out to be the original marriage license that I had never seen. I've seen other documents, I've seen the returns and stuff like that, but I've never seen the original document that they filled out at the courthouse. And so that was cool. But that's how simple search works. You just put in the information you want to put in there. You could go back and just either reset would get you a whole new blank box, or just go in and edit things and try some different combinations of stuff until you get what you're looking for. I see a lot of potential in this. Okay, that pretty well wraps up what we've done. If you're watching this video, which you must be doing because you're watching it, you're actually on our YouTube channel right now. We back out of the video, it'll take you to the channel, President of North State Family Search Center trainings. And the reason I bring you here is two things. One is it'll show you all the videos we have. In this case, this is actually number 102. So we have 102 videos in the collection. And the little blue link there is so important. If you wanted to be able to review this lesson or any other lesson, you can go to our blog, find the blog entry for this particular presentation, the presentation you're looking for. And on that page will be a link to a PDF document that will have all the slides in a single document so that you can see all the slides and everything that was written on them. You don't have to have a lot of handwritten notes and things like that. And you can pick out something you want specific from there. So learn to use our blog if you need or want a collection of the slides for any presentation. We hope you've enjoyed this today. We'll be seeing you again soon, and happy hunting.